you can actually control that. So that's the service contract that they have, this company has with USF. You won't try to hire them because then they lose some people, and then all of a sudden, they're not making as much money, because one of the great things about selling a company about a piece of software is they get a certain number of hours of support, but after that they start charging by the hour. Well, if you hire the people away, they're not going to pay for that support, they're not going to make any money. So you can even have no non-solicit. And then you can have in your employment agreements that they will not go work for any of your clients. So that's a good way of protecting your unintentional tech transfer. So your employment agreement, if you are the employer, you want the scope of employment to be as broad as possible. Because the broader the scope of employment, the more things are going to fall in under the scope of employment when it comes when they start doing it. So, especially in a small company. In a small company, you don't really have defined roles as much. Everybody's doing everything, so you want to keep it broad. Well, if it's a contractor, you want to be very specific about what it is that you want them to do, and what rights you are going to get and what rights you're not going to get, because obviously you have to pay less if you don't get all the rights. So you want your agreements to be as specific as possible. Non-disclosure agreements. You want non-disclosure agreements to everybody. There will be a non-disclosure portion of your employment agreement if it's properly written, but with your contractors, with your suppliers, with your clients, you need non-disclosure agreements. And then non-compete. If I hire you, sorry, I'm sorry. This is where all the problems. We're in a web-based world. This is where all the problems. This is where all the problems come up. A non-compete has to be reasonable as to geography and time. Okay, so car dealer, I already is going to sell cars for me. Then he quits. And we have a non-compete. He is not going to work within 20 months of my dealership for 2 years. Okay, that's probably reasonable. 2 years seems to be that's the number the courts represent for statutes of settled. That anything under 2 years is presumed to be reasonable. It's a rebuttable presumption, but anything under 2 years is presumed unless you can show why it's not. If you can show trade secrets, they bump that. Anything under 5 years is presumed to be reasonable. Everything above 10 years is presumed to be unreasonable, and then you just kind of have to fight it out in the street. So if you get an extra, you get a pretty more than double the time, you can actually stop it from competing with it. It doesn't mean they can't work. So, one thing about web programming is it's always you. And I developed this really great website for me to help me sell shoes. They put their foot on the screen and everything happens, every package is free. We have a non-compete. Okay, so you leave. You can still develop websites. You just can't develop websites for people that compete with you. So that would be reasonable. But it comes to what is a reasonable geographic restriction if you're doing programming, or if you're doing website development, or if you're doing jewelry design. What's the geographic limitation? It doesn't matter where you make jewelry anymore. Because it's all online.
So what's the answer for that?
I don't know.
How about depends?
It depends. If there's a trade secret involved, less than 5, if it's software or web development, you'll probably get the whole country.
What if it's more like an international?
Well, the thing is, once none of our laws affect any other country, so it's all going to be whatever the law is next. If that country says, yeah, you got an agreement in the U.S., we're going to honor it, that's fine.
So you cannot put there, like you cannot go to another country specifically that country and do this met.
You can, as long as that is a reasonable geographic limitation for what you're doing. And that's always going to be industry specific. So, what I want everybody here to really focus on is to focus on the human capital. Because everything we have talked about, maybe with the exception of trademarks, originates from the Maybe you can look for trademark on your own, whatever. But a lot of times other people can do it. Focus on human capital. Don't worry about patent applications. Don't worry about trademark registrations, copyright registrations. All these things are very important. None of them matter if you develop a business, and when it comes time to either seek investors or sell, or or prevent somebody from competing for it, you find out that you don't own what you find. Or what's even worse is you didn't realize what you owned and you could have protected. Know-how. You have key employees. And this is all my experiences. It's in this sector. That's why I keep going. I got a brand to help me start my tech company, right? And obviously, he is going to be very important to my company. He is an employee. He's going to help me develop the technology that Google is going to want to come in, and they're going to want to buy the business. So like Google buys YouTube, it doesn't become Google, it stays YouTube. They want it to operate the way it is. That's where all the value is. They're going to come to me and say, okay, your product is great. It's great because of brand. Why am I going to give you all these $millions of dollars when he can split tomorrow, and then we don't know how he runs, we don't know what he's doing. With an employment agreement, you can actually find brand in the company for contracts, an average employment contract, and average term. I mean, you're not entering, but that's an important factor when it comes to a strategic buy. Are there key employees in the company right now that are necessary for the continued success of this company that aren't bound to the company at all? See, that was a good example. So that's an incredible piece of intellectual property that people, it's intangible. I mean, obviously, brand is tangible, but his know-how and his being bound to the company, that's intangible. If the other people like this happen to, marketing. If you have growing support, we actually have a marketing team. Marketing is very important. Marketing is more important. I tell people all the time when they have their startup, they want to get a patent. The patents are in the news. Okay, you have a limited amount of capital. If you can spend it on marketing or you can spend it on getting a patent, spend it on marketing. The marketing people are critical. If they leave, what happens? Will your sales stop? You want to find them and you want to make sure that they can't go to your competitor. Because they can go do marketing for somebody else, but they can't do one your competitor. Marketing and active marketing are obviously a critical part of the web.
So it's a good idea that everybody that you work with works for you, or
everybody you talk to, if you can get the people who walk by your office every day to sign paperwork, I've had them do it too.
Which one would you make them sign? I mean, they don't.
Well, the thing is, an employment agreement can have all these things in it. Actually, a good employment agreement does have all these things in it. And a service agreement is just an employment agreement for somebody who doesn't work for you. But the reason I have these broken out is because you're also going to have an NDA potentially. So you're having things made for you to certain specifications.
And implement are also for contractors?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, so, okay, you're going to make yoga stretch mats, right? Mm-hmm. You want one that we made of a certain material, certain density, and this is really critical. This is what makes the yoga stretch mat work. So you're not going to make it. You're going to go to a manufacturer. You want an NDA with the manufacturer. You're not going to let anybody know how this mat's being made. Because if my competition finds out about it, they're going to be able to make them. And I don't want that to happen. Mm-hmm. So with your manufacturer, you want an NDA. Okay. Pretty much anybody. All your contractors. All your people, especially in the beginning, they don't want to have contracts. They don't want contracts. Oh, no. For buddies. For buddies. The only website gives some money at the end. So great. Everybody gets along until people start making money or don't make money. A contract is a part of everyday professional life. They're not icky, they're not impersonal, they're important. Do not be afraid of contracts. You're not to hire anybody without an employment agreement. I don't care if they're your sister, actually, especially for you. I don't. Anybody with whom you do business with, you need to have an understanding of everybody's expectations.
Well, husbands and wives.
Don't do business with them.
You said something a little bit that if you had money to either buy patents or marketing, you would just
Marketing.
market.
And that's, don't get me wrong, I tell people that I don't get paid for marketing, I get paid for writing patent applications. But the fact of the matter is, marketing is infinitely more important than patent. Because if you, let's say it's patent, this is not the number, but $10,000. You have $10,000 to start with. Okay. You can blow that, you can invest that in getting a patent. Or you can spend it on marketing. If you get a patent, you have a piece of paper that will confer upon you rights. What you do with that has absolutely nothing to do, the amount of money you make has nothing to do with that. It has to do with what you do with it. The overwhelming 99.9% of the patents that are in the patent database are worthless. They never made any money. A patent is very important for many industries, but you can make money without it. You can't make money without sales. Everybody sells something. Personal services, sells time. Everybody sells something. And without marketing, there's no revenue.
If you make that choice, you go for marketing first.
Right.
Do you have a time limit by which you can go back and make a patent mark?
Yeah, good question. Depends. It really does. But for the simple answer is the patent laws have now changed. Everybody saw the news about the American Inventions Act. It basically devastating to look at. It's supposed to make it so that you don't have to file more often. You have to file more often now. But the general rule is you have a year from your first public disclosure to file your patent application. So you can buy, you can sell it for a year before you have to file. And there's a lot of risk to that. So if somebody else comes out with something before you do, or somebody else comes out with something similar before you file your application, you're done under the new rules. So there's that risk. But your public disclosure won't count against you for a year. But if on day 364, when you are on your way to the patent office, which you don't have to do anymore, but somebody else comes out and publicizes the exact same thing as the day before you file, you're done. Under the old rules, you're still good. Under the new rules, no. So there is a risk. It's not like you're going to spend money on marketing now and patent it. But it doesn't matter how great an idea it is, how technologically wonderful it is. If nobody knows about it, you're not going to make any money. So that's why I say that. It was that's basically stepping, how to develop everything like that. That's a whole other. That's actually the first slide in the lecture. And who was interested, they really like the spy versus spy slogan that he used. Which, by the way, I didn't have the right to use. God, they are unlikely to find out. So, does everybody see what I was trying to do? Obviously, you had to have the knowledge of what the four big areas were. But when I talk about the IP, you didn't know you have how they flow into those, and how those are the ways you can button them up. But the most important document you're going to have is going to be your contract. Or documents you're going to have, particularly your employment contract.